You may have realized that being healthy feels different than it did in the past now that you're over 50. If you want to maximize your health potential but don't have time to read through overwhelming pages of Google links, this is the show for you. Welcome to Healthy Tips After 50. We love doing the research, finding solutions, talking to health experts, and learning what works and what doesn't. Now, your host. She spent the last 25 years dedicated to feeling her best and is here to share her best findings with you, Susan Rosen.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen. And today, as always, I have another great guest. And her name is, and I'm going to probably bungle this, Larisa?
Yes.
Got that one right. Larisa Petrini.
Yes,
she is an age reversal expert and epigenetic specialist known for turning back the clock 10 years. She is the founder of BODYOLOGY, a proprietary system designed to help high-performing women reverse their age and sizzle with energy and confidence in their midlife years. Hundreds of high-achieving women have sought her help to get back in shape, overcome chronic fatigue, solve dry and sagging skin, and deal with moods and hormonal imbalances. And she studied health, nutrition, sleep, and epigenetics at some of the leading schools across the world, such as Cornell University, which is very well known, Precision Nutrition, and Apeiron ZOH. And she is currently working with celebrities and physicians from Switzerland, Netherlands, and the US, and shares her knowledge as a contributor for Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Forbes, and Shape magazines. So there we go. Okay. Very impressive resume.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, welcome. And I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be very interesting. So tell me a little bit, I know you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, but tell me a little bit about, well, number one, which I didn't ask before, is tell me a little bit about how you ended up getting involved in all of this. Because we all have, very unusual stories, right?
Yes, and this is an unusual story as well. It started back in 2009 when I went through two unexpected events. The first one was the divorce from my former husband. And the second one, and this happened a few months later, I was misdiagnosed with thyroid cancer.
Oh my God.
And then the third event, if I could call it like that, or decision followed by a trip actually, was very interesting because I decided I'm going to spend 2 months away from everything, from my career. I had a very successful career, even though I was overworking, overspending, everything was with us over before, like overeating. Overeating, even though I had no issues with my weight, but I was an emotional eater. So I decided to leave for 2 months. It was a shorter sabbatical, if you want. And this happened, I went to Malaysia in the jungle in Borneo. And there I decided, first of all, I had what I like to call a mirror moment, in which I literally used the metaphorically mirror, obviously, and I looked at my life and myself and what happened and why I arrived in that specific place. And that was also the moment when I decided I'm going to help as many women as possible to avert this type of crisis in their life, whether it's a health-related crisis or it's a crisis related to either their career or their personal life. Because what came out from that trip was the fact that I wasn't, even though I was a workaholic, I wasn't very happy with what I was doing. I had a successful career. I was on the cover of magazines. I was in all the tops in the communication industry. I was running a very successful communication and public relation agency. And I was getting amazing results. I love to get in touch with people and network with them. So I was a great PR person. It's just that what I did was not fulfilling for me. And that was a big decision. So that was the decision. I wasn't aware about the path I am on right now. So the decision wasn't about me doing epigenetics or stepping into that, or even nutrition, even though my mom did this for almost her whole life. So she had a business in this domain, and she's also very passionate about eating healthy and also optimizing our bodies and so on. So she had this business. She had a chain of stores with healthy products. And we were sharing and speaking a lot and reading lots of books and then sharing the know-how in between ourselves. But I wasn't aware this is going to be my path. So I just decided I'm going to help as many women as possible avert that type of crisis. And then it took me another 4 years, almost 5 actually, till the end of 2014. So I needed that time in order to build my current career. So I went back to school. I started with nutrition and health coaching. So the first certifications, I have 3 certifications in nutrition and health coaching. So I started with that. And then I also I am very passionate about sleep and what's going on while we sleep, since we spend 30% of our life sleeping. And it looks like 30% of the population have some challenges and issues in regards to sleep. So, and that was not only the only curiosity or reason why. I also discovered the fact that helping someone lose weight or get in a healthier shape requires some knowledge in this area as well. There is a very, very strong link between the way we manage our weight and the quality of our sleep. So that was another important decision. And then working with so many women. So I do what I do. The first certification was back in 2012. So I'm doing this for almost 10 years, and I worked with literally hundreds of women. And the next decision was in regards to epigenetics. And the reason for that was personalization. I am not at all in favor of applying what we call a one-size-fits-all solution. Or going into trial and errors over and over and over without actually getting the result, because we spend time, energy, effort, we get frustrated, right? So who wants to go on that avenue? So my biggest desire was to, number one, discover what's there for us, and for us only, like particular for each person, and not something that's good for everyone. And then I also wanted to create a system, a proprietary system that's unique. And this is what we do as we speak. We also have our own app, and this is dedicated to our clients. So it's created for our clients and it's dedicated for them, and all the genetic data, because the way we work, the way we help and support women is by testing their DNA. And we use the most complex genetic report available right now in the world. It's a 200 pages report. Wow. And this report covers everything from diet, and when I say diet, I mean super specific information, from how we react to proteins, saturated fats, unsaturated fats, also how we process sugar, how we react to coffee, to salt, and so on. So this is under the diet pillar. And then supplements, micronutrients is another important chapter. And then movement. Movement is such an important piece, and sometimes we might move the wrong way. I know this might sound a little bit interesting, but it's true. For some people, for me, for example, I will speak for myself, going into a hard cardio type of exercise, running heavily or doing anything heavy from this perspective would trigger inflammation in my body. So cardio is not the right type of movement for me. I do great when I stretch my body, and also when I lift. I do some weights. I have some workouts involving weight. So these two, a combination of these two, is great for me. Some other women can do cardio. It's great for them, but it's not for everyone. So movement is another chapter. And then we move into what we generally call mental health. And there we speak about sleep, also about specific predispositions for specific diseases that have to do with cognitive decline, such as Alzheimer, Parkinson, dementia. That's another chapter, important chapter. And then we talk about stress and how we tend to deal with stress and what's there from the genetic point of view. And then we move into gut health, inflammation. We talk about immunity and the best strategy for that, for prevention. And then a very, very important chapter, at least for most of my clients, is the skincare chapter. And this is important and interesting because based on what's coming out from the report and the data we get, we can design a personalized epigenetic intervention plan in which in 90% of the cases we throw away most of my clients' skincare products. They think they are good, they are great just because someone from the beauty counter recommended them, or they saw a commercial and the commercial overpromised something. They go and spend lots of money on those premium expensive lotions and potions, and they are not necessarily what they need. So we do that. We also design a supplements plan specifically for them. And then we also talk about minimal invasive or non-invasive procedures for their face. So we don't go into anything harsh, like fillers and lifting and stuff like that. We only talk about biorevitalization and how we can help our skin produce more collagen or more elastin. So this is the type of conversation we have depending on their specific needs. Because for some women, for example, collagen is needed. They really need to take collagen. For some other clients, it's not necessary and they waste money just because it's trendy and everyone is taking collagen as we speak. And it's not what they need. So this is somehow the last pillar. We also talk hormones a lot. And most of my clients, once we finalize the conversation, the discussion on their strategy, they step into a hormonal reset, into a 21 hormonal reset, so that they can almost start on a white piece of paper, so that they can really get the results, because sometimes we might do the right things and still not get the results because our hormones are out of balance. Oh my God. So hormones is another important conversation. So this is in a few sentences my story. So I started as a communication expert, and then something happened, and this is probably the more or less the traditional story of everyone who turned their life around. And I am super passionate about what I do. And this is the reason why we also created this signature process called BODYOLOGY. It looks like there was a silver lining back in 2009 with my divorce and the misdiagnosis. And probably I oftentimes think about that. Like I needed that wake up call. I really need it in order to slow down and be less stressed, and also to have perspective and to to discover what's best for me, career wise, and even on the personal level.
Yeah. No, I mean, in some ways, you're very lucky that you had that wake up call.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you had continued on that path, you probably would have ended up with something as bad as what they had told you had.
Yeah. And I actually took that eventually. It wasn't like that in 2009, 10. But working with me and spending time with myself and reflecting back at what happened back then, that's the conclusion. I oftentimes say this is probably one of the biggest gifts, if not the biggest gift ever.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and you're very lucky that it happened when you were still young enough to be able to go out and take a hold of something new and do something that really fulfills you, which the other obviously wasn't.
Yeah, I was 30. So yeah, it was an interesting age. And one of my favorite books is Passages. I don't know if you are familiar with the title.
Is that Gail Shee's?
Yes. And she speaks about this in between decades, what happens around 30s, in our 30s, and then when we hit 40s, and then when we hit 50s, and so on. So it looks like it was something like that for me. It wasn't necessarily or maybe it was the midlife crisis happening earlier for me instead of 40s. Yeah, an early midlife crisis probably. Even though I don't think there is a gong for everyone. Like when we hit 40, this is happening. It's true that the majority of my clients, they start to feel like there is something happening, and it's more than them looking in the mirror and not recognizing their body. It's more. It's definitely something like, I would like to change my career, and I am wondering what's next. And I feel like my kids are leaving the nest, and then I'm left behind, and this very important role I had, the mom role, is not there anymore so much. So, and I deprioritize myself along the way instead of actually taking care of myself. And now I feel like, oh my God, now it's my time. Or why this is happening now and I wasn't aware about it a few years earlier. So it's very interesting to see how each person, not necessarily woman, but each person around this age, and they also perceive time differently. They feel like the way time passes is completely different. And I can speak for myself without even mentioning any of my clients, even though they're I have interesting stories there too. I look at my mom. She's 64 and she has some health issues. Funny enough, she's dealing with thyroid cancer. This is interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing.
Wow.
And I look at her. She's an amazing woman. She looks amazing. She takes care of herself. I'm very proud of my mom, I should say. And I look at her and I'm like, this is 20 years between us, 21 years. And time flies. It feels like yesterday I was pregnant with my son and he's 16. And I'm like, oh my God, when this happened, this time actually went out of the window almost. So it's interesting how we in our 40s and beyond, we perceive everything differently. We have a different perception on everything, on our body, on the way we feel, on our energy, on the quality of our life, and the way the time passes and the way we spend this precious time and so on. So yeah.
Oh no, I totally agree. And it is interesting because I mean, men have their midlife crisis sometimes a little bit later, but usually I think it starts in their 40s as well. Sometimes it's 50s, but you know, they have their own version of it. I mean, it's a little different, but their hormones are different too. So
from what I understood, it looks like for men, the midlife crisis is like a burst. So it happens suddenly, and it also ends pretty quick.
Okay.
And of course, we don't comment on how they solve it, whether it's the Ferrari or the expensive car or something else. We don't do any comments about that. For women, this is different. So it looks like for women, midlife crisis can be somewhere between 1 year and even 10 years if they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
So it's the type of crisis that's there for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And there are studies on it as well. And exactly what you mentioned earlier, it's coming out from those studies as well. The fact that we are so differently wired from men and we perceive it so differently. And we also struggle more with it.
Yes.
Easier for men.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree. I would agree, definitely. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of them probably say, "Oh, I never had one," right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't even know. Yeah.
And sometimes it's also the ego, right? It's their ego is bigger. Can I say this on the show?
Absolutely.
Since you also have listeners. It's I don't like to label and generalize, but this is something that I observed. And with women is different. With women, I think it's, first of all, what our moms modeled is so hard to change, like to simply change the karma, if I can say it like that. Because we had moms, and again, I don't want to generalize, but this is what I hear a lot from my clients. They had I like to call this the martyr type of mom.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
Anyone else is more important than themselves, right?
That's right. They have to support
kids,
everybody else.
House, exactly, cleaning the house, cooking, ironing, everything if possible, not to mention the fact that they had multiple roles and they did this delegation or delegating something was out of question just because they felt ashamed. They thought this is out of question. People would judge me and I will look like incompetent and I would look like lazy and this and that. And it's so difficult to change this generational chain, if I can call it like that. And this is part of my work, to mirror certain topics like this to my clients and explain to them the fact that delegating is self-care. And then self-care is self-love. And they can do everything, but they don't have to do everything. They don't. It doesn't mean you are not capable. It only means you also leave some room for yourself, for your self-care. Because you need that energy. All this energy goes back to the dear ones. If your cup is full, you will be able to actually pour from that cup. And you will be more generous with your time, with your energy, with your smiles. Instead of snapping at everyone and being cranky and stressed and all the time, you will be a nicer person. You will be a better company for everyone. And it's not easy. It's interesting how we borrow this martyr archetype, if I can call it like that, from our moms, and we perpetuate it. We and most of my clients can afford help, any type of help, even a chef if they want, and driver. And we don't go there, of course, but at least for scrapping the toilets, we don't need to do that. If we can afford to hire some help, right? Especially when we run a company or build an empire, and we do a high level type of work, and we have a high level type of expertise, that's not needed. And it's difficult. It's difficult because it has to do with our belief system. It's wired so deeply. And if someone is not, and I also needed that.
Oh yeah.
And I received that from my mentors and coaches. I wasn't able to see that for myself as well. And when one of my coaches, I remember this happened in 2018, Todd Herman is his name, and he was my first mentor from US. And Todd explained to me the fact that there are 4 types of activities we generally deal with. The $10 type of activity, the $100, the $1K, and then the $10K type of activity. And what we did, we put everything on the list, all my responsibilities, tasks, and everything I had to do. And then we split them in 4 categories. And scrubbing the toilets was definitely a $10 type of activity. I'm exaggerating a little bit, of course, but the idea is to actually focus spending time with the dear ones was the 10K type of activity, quality time. Yeah. And sometimes we confuse the two. We think having a clean toilet and clean house is the same with actually spending high quality time with the dear ones, and they're very, very separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how we need so much I don't know, persuasion maybe and support from someone else to get these things, to understand what's going on there.
Oh no, absolutely. And yeah, I know myself, I also coach people, and not just health coaching, but all areas, and mostly people that are 40s, 50s, right? And that's one of the things that I always have to talk with them about, which is, if you're supporting them all the time, then you're not supporting yourself. And if you're not supporting yourself, you can't support them. So, you get in this little wheel, this mouse wheel. And yes, I think
when we say yes to, this is one of my favorite quotes. I don't even know if it's a quote or a saying. When you say yes to other people, you say no to yourself, and the other way around. When you say no to when you say yes to yourself, you say no to other people. And I am a big believer in me first type of, without being something selfish or something. And we were raised like that. We were raised to believe that putting ourselves first or our self-care first is a selfish thing.
Yes.
And it's so far from truth.
Oh yeah.
Truth, so far. And sometimes we don't even get it just because we saw it at home, and we think it's selfish, it's something that would. And I ask my clients if they want to reach a certain level in their life and have the same energy and joy of life as their moms. And most of my clients answer no, not at all. My mom is cranky, she's frustrated, she's always sad, she's always
that's who we learned it from.
Yes. She's always dependent on me, a codependent person. So no, I don't want to end up like my mom. So here's the answer, right? If we want to have hobbies, to travel, because we talked about traveling, if we want to enjoy all these goodies without sacrificing anything, this is the way to do it from my perspective.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I think that's the first thing that all women have to some of them are already, I think maybe some of the younger women are starting to learn that better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that those of us who are a little older may or may not have learned it yet.
Yeah.
So
let's hope the next generations will be different in a good way.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. And a lot of that is us changing what we do and modeling a good model.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean because that's another extreme in which we say, oh, it's below my status to cook or to prepare a meal, or that's another extreme. Nobody says that.
No.
Nobody says you will never touch anything in your kitchen, or it's just about balance, simply about balance.
And what you enjoy.
What you enjoy, and also how much you sacrifice yourself for others.
Oh, yeah.
And you also position yourself as being a savior for others. Sometimes you do a disservice to them just by jumping in and save everyone, instead of letting everyone to actually see the consequences and somehow pay for those consequences themselves.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like your programs that you have really cover a lot of different areas, right? So depending on where people need the help, where people need some support or whatever, that you can really sit down with them and go through their whole lives.
Yeah,
and
we like
say,
to
okay,
call
we
this...
can help you over here, and you've got that one under control, but let's look over here.
Yes. So what usually happens, they approach us with certain objectives for their health or sometimes beauty. And every single time we have this conversation, I say, these are your objectives, but let's wait for the report and see what's coming out from that report, because you might have huge surprises. You might not know the fact that you are predisposed to have type 2 diabetes, or maybe obesity, or maybe Alzheimer. So for that, you will need a separate prevention plan in order to avoid that, because genes are, as we know, a few percentages. The rest is actually lifestyle. So genes, I like to say, load the gun, but then the lifestyle is what's actually making the difference there. So,
interesting.
and we have two types of objectives, right? And of course, there is a sweet spot between what the client wants and then what's coming out from the report and what we think is a priority for them. And we marry them, if you want, together, so that we get where we need to get. And then we like to call this strategy or the report in itself their body's Bible. It's literally like their body's Bible. And they can literally put the strategy we discuss in this private intensive session. This is what we do. Once the report is done, they are notified in the app, in the application, and we schedule this private intensive session. This is a 3-hour intensive in which we discuss every single aspect of their strategy. Some clients like to split the topics and have diet, movement, supplements in one session, like 1 hour. And then we talk about mental health, stress, mental health in general. And then the third one is immunity, gut health, and skin. So this is another way to do it. And once they understand what needs to be done, because there are two ways of implementing the strategy. Some things need immediate attention for the following few months, sometimes even few weeks. And some other topics, like predispositions to specific lifestyle diseases, they need an evergreen type of attention. So there is a prevention plan and strategy for the rest of their lives. What's good about this is the fact that you only do this once. Our DNA is not changing. There are some other things changing, but not our DNA. So we do this once, and then we put on rinse and repeat for the rest of our life the strategy, so that we literally press the right buttons. I like to use this metaphor. So instead of going into trial and errors and guessing what might happen because my mom had this type of disease or issue, and then my grandma and so on, instead of guessing, we know whether or not we inherited certain genes. And even if we inherited them, it's not a tragedy, it's not a drama. Because again, if we know what to do from the lifestyle perspective, we can avoid and avert and navigate that easily. So yeah, this is why, from my perspective, this is also the future of health. Epigenetics is literally the future of health.
I agree.
Because it's all about personalization and ditching the fat diets and ditching Dr. Google, as I like to call it sometimes, and ditching so many all that guesswork, if you want. There is a lot of guesswork, including, and we spoke about this a little bit before our interview, the way traditional medicine functions, and the fact that a doctor is focused on the symptom and doesn't also have time to spend and to tackle the root cause of that specific issue. So functional medicine and integrative medicine and health is great. It's a great addition. It's not something that works completely separate. We are not in competition. It's something that is part of equation, so that we also solve the root cause, not just the symptom. So the physician can tackle the symptom, and then the epigenetic specialist or the integrative or functional medicine or doctor, it depends on his or her background, can tackle the root cause of that specific symptom, so that the symptom will not be there over and over.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things that has come out of the last 20 years of medicine.
Agree.
Is that it's not an either or, it's an all of it.
It's an integrated system.
Yeah.
And our body is a system. It's not, we cannot treat stomach or the gut separate from the heart, and then separate from the brain, and then separate from the skin. And this is how, unfortunately, traditional medicine works.
And a lot of it still does.
Yeah, we have specialists for separate parts of our body or organs.
Yeah.
And then we end up having sometimes issues that are difficult to be solved because we don't know the root cause of them. Because nobody is actually having a 360 type of approach in which they actually treat the person as a system and the body as a system, not just the heart or just the gut. Or
my God, yeah. No, I know it drives me crazy with my doctors because, I go in and say, okay, I want all these things and I want to see all these things in my blood test. Right? Oh, you don't need that. And it's like, no, you don't understand. I do need that. I want all that stuff when you take my blood. No. We'll check the cholesterol. And then there was one other thing that they were checking. It's like, what does that tell you? I can tell you now my cholesterol's high. It's always been high. That's not going away. It's just part of who I am,
Yeah.
Anyway, so get me started on.
And that's again, okay, high cholesterol. The question, the most important question here is, what's the root cause of that? Why do you have high cholesterol? Not just how to solve high cholesterol with this specific pill, but what was there in the first place, or what's there in the first place that's triggering your cholesterol to be high. So it's a different approach. And I am happy this is happening. And the future will definitely look different.
No,
the future of health, or at least I hope.
I hope so too. I definitely hope so too. So we should probably wrap up. I'm sure you probably have another appointment to go to, as you're very busy.
Even though I'm in Greece.
Well, hey, that's the same thing,
working remotely.
We're all on the internet. That's right. We're all on the internet.
Absolutely.
So let me just say that in wrapping up, that neither of us are doctors. This is not to be seen as medical advice.
No.
And if you are having medical problems, please call your own doctor. And if it's an emergency, go to the emergency room and get some some acute care. And other than that, I will be putting Larisa's information in the show notes so you all can find her, and hope that that all of that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
This has been Healthy Tips After 50 with Susan Rosen. To stay on the cutting edge of the most effective health strategies, subscribe to this podcast and let us know what you thought of the show with a comment or like on iTunes. Visit healthytipsafter50.com for this episode's show notes, more resources, and free offers.